All right, today we're diving into something incredibly powerful. Marin Sardy's memoir, The Edge of Every Day. Now, this isn't some dry clinical study, not at all. It's a deeply personal journey, a look inside one family's experience with schizophrenia that actually spans multiple generations. And it's all told through these vivid, almost dreamlike fragments of memory. Right from the very beginning, we're dropped into a world where things just feel a little off. Finding a note like this on your mom's desk isn't just a quirky little anecdote. It's a huge clue, a signpost that the line between what's real and what isn't is starting to get seriously blurry. So Sardi doesn't really tell the story in a straight line. Instead, she builds it with this collection of memories, what she calls strange things. These are all these small, unsettling moments from her childhood that when you start to piece them all together, they paint a picture of a world that's slowly, quietly tilting off its axis. The sense of unease, it starts small. It's not about big, dramatic events, but these little sensory details that just create this quiet, creeping dread. The sound of teeth grinding in a silent house. That becomes the soundtrack for a family life that's changing in ways nobody can even put a name to yet. And you start to see these moments connect, to form a pattern. Putting foil on the TV antenna isn't just some weird habit. No, it's a piece of a much larger, private logic. It's evidence of a whole other reality being built, one designed to fight off invisible threats that only her mother could see. And here, this is a big shift. It goes from just watching these strange behaviors to being directly invited into that different world. When her mother asks her this, it's a huge moment. That private, internal world is trying to break through, looking for someone else to say, yes, I hear it too. Okay, and this is where things really start to build. Because Sardi's mother wasn't just eccentric. She was meticulously, carefully constructing an entire alternate reality, a whole worldview to try and make sense of her own fracturing mind. And this was no simple fantasy. It was a complete cosmology, a paracosm with its own set of physical laws. I mean, can you imagine being told you could fly to Santa Fe, but you might land on a duplicate plate where your family doesn't exist, all because the pillows are the wrong color? That's the world her mother was living in. Early on, her mother used to talk about reality like it was two parallel streams. You had the concrete world we all live in, and then you had this inner world of spirit and imagination. But over time, the walls between those two streams just eroded. The metaphor became real, and the two streams just smashed together into one chaotic, unpredictable river. Wow, this quote just gets right to the heart of what it felt like as a kid. It wasn't that her mom was sick or acting weird. It felt like her mother had been stolen. Literally taken by some dark, shapeless thing, leaving this huge, terrifying emptiness where she used to be. When one person in a family starts living in a totally different reality, the very first thing to break down is communication. The family's shared language just shatters. Simple, everyday phrases suddenly become a secret code. A warning like, don't go outside, isn't about the rain anymore. It's a coded, desperate cry for help, a confession of total chaos inside. Every single conversation becomes this minefield of trying to translate what's really being said. The rest of the family is just lost, completely adrift, and everyone reacts differently. You've got the desperate pleas for help, the total denial that anything is seriously wrong, and then this painful acceptance that logic just doesn't work anymore. You can't argue with the reality that doesn't follow the same rules. The illness creates these huge holes in the family. With the mother lost in her own world, the father just gets overwhelmed and pulls back, one of the most basic things a kid needs, comfort. So the children are left trying to deal not just with their mom's illness, but with all the damage it's causing to everyone else. So this tragedy didn't just pop up out of thin air. Sardi eventually realizes it's part of this long, unspoken family history, a history that's been hiding in the stories they've been telling for generations. As she gets older, the author basically becomes a detective, digging through her own family's lore. And she finds the clues to this genetic inheritance, not in some doctor's office, but in the weird little gaps and strange details of the stories they tell about their own past. And this really shows you the incredible power of shame and silence. An uncle's illness was something you just didn't talk about. It was a secret. And that silence is exactly what kept the family from ever seeing the pattern, from understanding the genetic thread that was connecting them all. And then, just heartbreakingly, that pattern shows up again. The shapeless thief that took her mother comes back, And this time, it's for her brilliant, beloved brother, Tom. There's this one moment on a trip to Costa Rica, this beautiful, fleeting moment of connection. He makes a clever little joke, a play on words, and for a second, he's just there. The witty, present brother she knows and loves, right before the illness pulls him away for good. A local folktale about a sea dragon becomes the perfect metaphor for the illness itself. It's this unseen, ancient, incredibly powerful force whose tentacles stretch across the whole world, connecting her family in this tragic, invisible net. This is the devastating echo of that loss. The grief is so complete it just collapses time and space. Her search for her brother becomes this permanent, frantic thing, a wound she's going to carry with her to every single beach she ever visits for the rest of her life. So, after watching the realities of her mother and her brother completely dissolve, Sardy is left with this fundamental question. How do any of us really know what's real? What do we use to anchor ourselves? In the middle of all this chaos, her family finds this one tiny, weird piece of magic. There's this rumor that on the equinox, you can balance an egg on its end. And for them, it actually works. It becomes their ritual, this one small point of predictable order in a world that's completely falling apart. And that's exactly why it was so important. The standing eggs weren't just a fun trick. They were proof that the universe had hidden rules, astonishing possibilities. It validated their own experience, that maybe reality was way stranger and more mysterious than most people ever imagined. And this is what the whole book leaves us with, right? This huge, haunting question after everything is stripped away. Your shared language, your shared reality, the people you love, what's left? What little pieces do you use to hold on to your own sanity when everything around you is in ruins?